Do you know what time it is, Thierry? It is 6 o'clock.
Wait, I forgot how it starts now. Now that I know
Occult confessions.
Okay, yeah, we're good. Occult Confessions is brought to you commercial-free through the generous support of our patrons. Visit occultconfessions.com and click donate to help keep the history of the occult on the digital airwaves.
Nikki just left you out to dry.
No, but like as soon as I was gonna chime in, she had it.
Yeah, all right.
I'm confused at the end of it, but I did it.
We'll take it. When we think of crusades, the images of the Knights Templar riding into battle against their Islamic foes in the Holy Land spring to our minds. But there was another medieval crusade against non-believers, in this case, pagans, held in Scandinavia in the same time period. How did the church arrive at the conclusion that it had no choice but to forcibly convert these Baltic heathens? The conversion of the Baltic tribes, like the conversion of the barbarian tribes of Western Europe, was a complicated event with many moving parts. It isn't the case that the Pope signed an order and Christian missionaries boldly marched in, accompanied by knights on white steeds, and started baptizing people. To begin, the Scandinavian kings led the way in converting the populace, particularly in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. The kings, however, had their own reasons for converting, which were often far more political than religious. Today, on Occult Confessions, the Baltic Crusades. I am joined by our two favorite anti-crusaders, our metallurgic prophet, Brie Literal.
Hey, guys.
Have you been prophesying anything metal lately? You've been doing some D&D.
I have been.
That's pretty
I've
metal.
also been writing some stuff, so.
Oh, you've been writing some metal stuff?
Yep. Some
Yeah.
pretty metal content.
You give us just a hint of some of that metal?
Russian necrophile.
Oh, yeah. That's metal.
That's metal.
It's pretty
Yeah.
metal.
A very well-educated Russian necrophile.
That other voice there is, of course, our Naked Truth. That is Nikki Double H, Hiller Henderson. Nikki, have you been doing any naked truth-telling lately?
I mean, I haven't been doing a lot of clothed lying.
I think that's fine, yeah. That's the standard for you. So you could be doing some naked lying or some clothed truth-telling, but you're not doing clothed lying.
Exactly.
It's not an option.
No, that's not how I roll.
Okay. And that's how we gave you the title. All right, let's pledge this out. We, the members
The
of the secret order of alchemical actors, do solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it. Cool. Yes. Oh, let's open up those plugs and patrons. So we don't plug anymore. We open the Order of Confessors. So this is my invitation to you both to make any sounds you please.
I don't know.
All right, we'll take that. Bree, now I'm going to put you on the hook for the end there since Nikki carried that one.
Okay.
So you're going to have to play us out of this. We got 3 new folks to welcome to the patrons. That is Caitlin H., the Bard King, and Momo. Welcome, all 3 of you. I want to just wax poetic about the Patreon for 1 second here. We do have new bonus content from Bree. It just came out this past month. And Breeze, that if you're interested in that necrophilia,
It's not. The necrophilia is very vague. It's more so about everything else.
Okay, with a little bit of Blavatsky, Russian guy. So we have Breeze working on what she's writing there is an upcoming patron episode, another one. So now here's the thing, though. Patrons, I thank you. I want to tell you folks, like, yes, we have hours and hours of bonus content over there. That is a reason to join Patreon. But here's the other thing. We put this podcast out for free. And we have no ads. So our patrons are the people who make this show available to the world. We've been climbing various charts and bringing in new listeners all the time. I mean, charts, whatever. But, connecting with new people all the time. Our patrons are really responsible for allowing us to do that work. So if you value what we're doing here, if it's important to you, if you think that the world would be a better place if more people heard about us, come on over and join us on Patreon. That's the hard sell on Patreon, but seriously, folks, it means a lot. It helps a lot. It's the reason we're able to keep doing what we're doing. All right, Bree, you knew this was coming when I mentioned it a minute and a half ago. Let's get out of here. We're so sad. We're so very sad.
It was all I could think of.
All right, then.
You asked.
I did ask. That's my, as Supreme Hierophant, it's my purview to ask. Shall we go to the 9th century and the Vikings, Bree? How does that make you feel?
I feel attacked, honestly.
I was going to say in danger.
I feel like I am endangered, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the Crusaders are coming for your 9th century Viking babies.
Yes.
Speaking of which, in the 9th century, Viking babies were only baptized regularly in the British Isles. Baptized Christian is what I'm trying to say. And these baptisms were often short-lived, with Vikings returning to their pagan beliefs very shortly thereafter. So, you sort of like take your baby to the old, priest and be like, hey, man, I heard it's cool to baptize your kid. And the priest would be like, yeah, now you're a Christian. And you'd walk away and you'd be like, hey, that was cool. That was fun. What pagan shit are we doing tonight?
Sounds right.
Sounds right, yeah. That's the Viking way. So, initial attempts to bring Christianity to the Scandinavian countries were generally unsuccessful. Danish King Harald Klak wanted to forge an alliance with the Franks, and so, at Louis the Pious's request, he agreed to be baptized. But it didn't do him any good, and his rule quickly fell apart. Harald had ascended as a result of a civil war between two nephews of the former Danish king who managed to kill each other during the course of the conflict. So here we go. Here comes Danish king's nephews, and they're fighting over who gets to be king of all Danes, and they both die.
Oh, tragic.
So they're like, who should be king? And people were like, how about that guy over there? He's a clack.
He's a clack.
So
unfortunate name.
Right. Harold was aligned with the side that won. So you still had a winner, even though you lost both nephews. You'd still, one side's going to beat the other side. And so he was on the correct side. And since they won, they had to find a new king, and they picked that old clack there. So all the same, the sons of the former king rose up to depose Harold and force him out of Denmark. So remember, it was the nephews who were fighting. The king still had some sons chilling on the side there, Viking politics. And so as soon as, Harold is like, okay, I'll be king, the sons were like, wait a second, not so fast. Here comes Charlemagne's son, the first in a long line of French Louises. Not Louises, Louise.
Multiple Louis.
Many Louis, yeah, because the French kings were all Louis.
It's a lot.
100% Louis. He offered to help Harold get back on the throne in Denmark. Harold was eventually made a co-ruler with his rivals, which were the sons of the Danish king Gottofrid, who were often simply called the Sons of Gottofrid, since nobody seems very certain of their actual names. I mean today, historically.
Okay, but that'd be such a good, band name.
Sons of Gottofrid?
Yeah.
I was going to say they don't need first names.
Your
With a last
Viking
name like
metal
that.
band.
Yeah, it'd be just a death metal band.
So you're telling me, Nikki, if you were a Viking chick in the 9th century and here come the Sons of Gottofrid, you wouldn't mention them by their name. You'd just be like, sons.
The Sons of Godofred. No, you got to go with the whole thing.
Hail ye, Sons of Gottofrid. And the guy would be like, my name's Bob.
Be like, Bob, it doesn't matter here. You're
Call
the
me
Sons
Bob.
of Godofred.
He's trying to be all casual. That's Dr. Sons of Godofred to you. So, it's meaningless. The alliance was tense, and Harold sought to further ingratiate himself with Louis by having himself, his wife, and 400 Danes of both sexes baptized at St. Albans Basilica in Mainz. Worried that this conversion would not go down well with Harold's frenemies ruling in Denmark, Louis, the French king, gave him a little piece of land to flee to if he got into trouble. So off he goes. He's like, I'll be Christian, but I don't know, those sons of Godofred, Bob is not really great with the whole Christian thing.
Go, Bob.
So, yeah, Louis was like, I hear you, Harold. I'm going to give you this little retirement resort over here just in case. So, Louis may have just been angling to enlist Harold to help protect that region of the Frankish kingdom from Vikings. So it just so happened that this retirement plot was in a strategically significant location between the French and the Vikings. But he was right to worry about his vassal's reception in Denmark. No sooner had Harold got back than them sons of Godofred, Bill and Bob and Schmitty, promptly kicked him out. And there probably wasn't much resistance from the people of the Sons of Godofred, who were not too keen on Harold's new foreign faith anyhow, and were glad to see the bastard go. So, pagans score 1.
Whoa, whoa.
I agree, but also, like, wouldn't it be so cool if he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go get quote-unquote baptized and take this retirement land, but then actually use it to invade?
Yeah, that would have been badass, but I don't think
that's what I would have done.
I mean, from everything we've heard about Mr. Clack, he's not inclined to roll that way. Sir Clack. I mean,
so
after
much
all,
less metal this way.
I mean, I'm sure he really comported himself well in the battle, but it wasn't even really his battle where he got to be king. Everything sort of just fell in this guy's lap. He's not a go-getter.
So much more to gain, though, if he had whatever. It's fine.
The next Harold in the story, because there's not enough Harolds. Harold number 2. This is the story of the Danes' dance with Christianity, since this is, after all, the Harold Confessions podcast, exclusively focused on stories of people named Harold. This was Harold Bluetooth Gormson.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Harold Bluetooth Gormson.
One more time.
Are you serious? Bluetooth.
A little more conviction. Yeah.
Harold Bluetooth Gormson.
Okay.
He was one of the first Danish kings to successfully promote Christianity among his people in the 10th century. Some chroniclers record that Gormson, who lived from 935 to 985, was converted by a cleric named Papa.
His name's just Papa?
Papa. Papa.
He's a cleric whose name is Father?
Papa Priest. Papa Father. Father Papa.
Father Papa.
Father
Priest.
Papa!
When Harold asked him to demonstrate the strength of his faith, he picked up a great iron weight that had been heated in a fire and wasn't burned. So that's Papa. He's a badass priest.
Okay, so Papa's doing some real shit.
Yeah. That's a little
right.
occulty, even.
You sure he's not a pagan?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you sure that's a priest? I don't know.
He's got really thick hands.
Yeah.
Another
Meaty
story.
hands.
Another story.
Calloused, just can't feel it.
Yeah, just that's how he gets a massage. He cleans off his hands that way. Another story claims that Harold Bluetooth was forcibly converted by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto I, or maybe it was Otto II when he wasn't defeated in battle. It's the 10th century, so things are a little foggy. In Sweden, moving to Sweden now. The first king to remain a Christian until his death was the early 11th century King Olaf Skotkonung. Skotkonung. Be nice to me, Swedish friends. I love you guys. Don't hurt my feelings because I'm pronouncing these words. Also Danish friends. Olaf Skotkonung, our Swedish listeners will know, was better known as Olaf the Swede.
I know. I recognize that name.
Yeah. This was 980 to 1022. Legend tells that Olaf invited Sigrid, the Archbishop of York, to his kingdom, and he traveled with his 3 nephews. So here comes the Archbishop of York from, the British Isles, and Olaf is like, come on down. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to bring my kids because this is fun. Well, nephews, because he can't have kids because he's a, priest. The 12 tribes of the islands of southern Sweden convened a thing. Now, Bree, what is a thing?
I'm sorry, say that again?
A thing.
The whole sentence.
Oh.
A thing?
A thing. They convened a thing. It's a Viking thing. You don't know about Viking things?
I am not a Viking,
ridiculous.
Rob.
I know, but you're into that
am
Norse stuff.
A Norse pagan.
All right. So, so maybe Viking politics are not your focus.
Viking politics are not involved in.
So it's like a conference.
A thing. It could be. I was gonna say it could be anything like a campfire. Like
It's probably some sort of intense gathering of sorts to discuss things.
Yeah, it's a Viking word for that. Yeah, that's what a thing is. I don't know if
Okay.
I guess our word thing might come from that, but we don't mean that. We just talk because thing is
it
one of the.
spelled like thing?
Yeah, it is a capital T thing. A thing.
Huh.
Where are you going? I'm going to the thing.
It was just
Going to the thing.
big ol' important meeting of peoples.
What's happening tonight? A thing.
Huh.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
At the thing, they determined to accept Christianity. But not all the pagans of the region were happy about this decision, and when Sigrid left his nephews behind to go baptize the king, they set upon the nephews, murdered them, and dropped their heads in the Vaxjo lake.
Well,
Huh.
I mean,
Rule 1 of a thing is you got to get everybody on board so that nobody gets beheaded / dropped in a lake.
I understand that part, Rob.
Okay. But that doesn't happen at things. I want anybody to think that things always end this way. This was a very unusual end to a thing. Yeah. Sigrid returned and recovered their heads through a miracle. That's all we know is through a miracle. So I'm guessing they rose out of the water.
Did you just fish them out?
There's a lot of occulty stuff. Like we got the last guy was handling, big hot irons, and this guy's raising heads out of the water.
And both of these men claim to be Christian?
Yes, these are all Christian
don't
guys.
believe them.
that just seems like a typical form of good old Christian exaggeration.
It seems like it's
I thought you were going to say a typical Christian thing to do is raise severed heads out of the water.
It seems like a Christian exaggeration that leans towards a pagan's mindset when it comes to pagan belief and practice. If that makes sense.
So you say maybe these stories aren't true. They made them up just to impress them pagans.
They're very pagan-y stories.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to make the pagans look bad even in the stories. They're like, I went there to baptize them. I left my nephews there. I came back and they were just beheaded.
Yeah.
And dead in the river. Can you believe it? A miracle brought their heads out, but...
So you don't even buy the murder story, Nikki.
I don't know.
This is turning into true crime medieval times.
Wait, Nikki, you're saying they weren't actually murdered?
Well, I'm just saying that it's awfully convenient for the Christians that almost every story they have about encountering pagans is the pagans are the bad people in it.
Yeah.
They're the bad people, and then God let me do pagan type things because the pagans died?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I'm with you, Nikki.
There we go. This is our new true crime show.
Pagans are Christians. Who's telling the truth?
The legend, whether true or not, reflects some of the underlying themes of Olaf's Christianization. While the king decided it was a good idea, his people weren't necessarily along for the ride. Olaf had planned to tear down the pagan Uppsala temple, but there were too many pagan Swedes, so he abandoned the plan. According to the medieval chronicler Adam of Bremen, whose account was based on a variety of sources, good and honestly less than good, the temple contained statues of Thor with a mace, Wodan in the center in armor, and Fricko, a male fertility god depicted with an erect phallus.
Love it.
Good old Fricko. A sacrifice of 9 male dogs, horses, and men was made to placate these gods, and the corpses hung in a sacred grove of trees behind the temple. The pagans only agreed to allow Olaf to establish a church if he promised not to try to convert anyone. So,
well,
Sweden's
I'm
not
delighted
going
by
easy.
everything you just said until you brought up the conversion again.
I mean, I'm going back to Nikki's point. When we talk about, 9 dogs and 9 men, this could be more tarnishing of pagan practice and stuff. Same like the Wicker Man.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That kind of thing. Moving to Norway. Olaf, this gets even harder. The further we go, these words get harder to pronounce. Shout out Norwegians.
Norway is rough.
Lots of Scandinavian fans. See, we have lots of Scandinavian fans, so I love doing Scandinavian content. However, it is not an easy lift, dear Scandinavian friends. Olaf, first of all, because everybody's name is Olaf. Olaf Tryggvason. All right.
Okay.
Tryggvason. He ruled until the 9th of September 1000. Kind of cool. After his wife Gira, he set out on 4 years to plunder in Friesland, the Hebrides, and the Scilly Islands. While plundering, he heard about a renowned oracle and sent one of his men to pose as the king to see if he could fool the oracle. But the seer wasn't fooled, and so Olaf went himself. The oracle offered him a prophecy.
Thou wilt become a renowned king and do celebrated deeds. Many men wilt thou bring to faith and baptism, and both to thy own and others' good. And that thou mayest have no doubt of the truth of this answer, listen to these tokens. When thou comest to thy ships, many of thy people will conspire against thee. And then a battle will follow, in which many of thy men will fall. And thou wilt be wounded, almost to death, and carried upon a shield to thy ship. Yet, after 7 days thou shalt be well of thy wounds. And immediately thou shalt let thyself be baptized.
Ugh.
Shortly after receiving this message...
Sorry.
Shortly after receiving this message, mutineers rose up against Olaf. He was attacked, but survived, presumably carried back to his ship on a shield. On the strength of the prophet's words, he converted. Now, yet again, we have an odd narrative, since it involves a pagan practice, namely prophecy, working in service of a Christian conversion, and it speaks to the fundamental overlap between paganism and Christianity in this world. Olaf converted the Greenland explorer Leif Erikson, as well as the people of the Orkney Islands. He hoped to rule a united Christian Scandinavia and courted Sigrid the Haughty. Yeah, you're going to love her. Sigrid the Haughty, Queen of Sweden. So here comes Olaf. And he's had this prophecy. It says he is going to be the Christian master of all Christian Vikings. So he's like, all right, step 2. Step 1, get prophecy. Step 2, marry the Queen of Sweden, who just so happens to be a little bit haughty.
Her name is Haughty.
I was hearing it like haughty, like she's a haughty.
Like
She's a haughty. No.
Like you get a little hot in the closet.
Yeah,
What?
exactly. But no, it has a different meaning. I get it now.
Nikki's recording situation, as all of our listeners know, is a little bit warm. Yes, not Hottie. Haughty. The haughty.
I feel like she's more than a little haughty if she's the haughty.
She's quite haughty. Quite haughty indeed. So off he goes to court her. But Sigrid, being haughty, refused to convert from her pagan belief system. Sigrid had earned her moniker when her foster brother sought her hand in marriage. She invited him, along with another suitor, to a great feast, where she had him burned in the hall in front of her guests.
Yeah. Love a strong woman.
Oh, man.
Can I marry her? Can I marry?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. The Japanese are now marrying fictional characters. She did, yeah. So when Olaf proposed marriage to her, he conditioned his offer on her acceptance of Christianity.
Come, pagan queen, and be my Christian wife.
I will not part from the faith which my forefathers have kept before me.
I am in a rage. If that is your response, then I will slap you with my glove.
This may, someday, be thy death.
Oh, shit.
That's not gonna go well. She just burned a man alive. Oh, honey.
Yeah, she burned him alive just for, like, asking if she would marry him.
Marry her! This man slapped her in the face with love. He's gonna get wrecked.
I'm ready.
I mean, it's
Tell me
possible.
what happens to him.
Like, maybe he insulted her at the feast. Okay, anyway. Olaf married Tiri, who was Sven Forbeard, king of Denmark's sister. So Sigrid is like, no thanks, get out. And then he smacks her, and he's not going to marry him then. So he runs off, and he decides to marry the king of Denmark's sister, whose name is Tiri. So, and Olaf, he's wanting to spread his Christianity around. So he goes ahead and marries Tiri without her brother's permission.
Oh?
Yeah. So he's real anxious. I guess Tiri is probably a haughty. So
Not haughty, but
not a haughty, a haughty. And also, I imagine, she's powerful because she's the sister of the king of Denmark. So, he's seeing these opportunities for political maneuvering. So Sigrid, remember Sigrid, who burned a man alive, the Swedish king who got slapped by this guy and burned the last guy in front of her. She heard about the king of Denmark, Sven's displeasure over the union between his sister and Olaf, and so she sent him a proposition. She said, "Oh, king of Denmark, why don't you marry me?"
Oh my god.
Heck yeah.
So he did. He married the queen of Sweden. Sigrid and Sven. You see where this is going. Sigrid and Sven
Yes, I do.
are now married. Sigrid. Sweden and Denmark are now united against Norway. Tiri then begged Olaf to wrest her ancestral lands back from her brother's control, just as Sigrid encouraged Sven to go to war with Olaf.
Olaf, I would love to have brother betraying sexy times with you. And you know what would be the sexiest kind of foreplay? Wresting my ancestral Danish lands from my brother. Swain, I would love to have haughty, sexy times with you. And you know what would be the sexiest kind of foreplay? Crushing Norway.
I'm delighted.
I mean, that is hot,
my
right?
God.
If you and your piece
pretty
go and
hot.
crush a country together, that is sexy. That gets me
That's,
in the
I
mood.
think, yeah.
Right.
That's the ultimate.
Nothing like
foreplay.
it. Nothing like it. That's a good 3 days. The Norwegians, led by Olaf, left to conquer Tiri's homeland and were met by Danish and Swedish ships at the Battle of Svolder, the largest naval battle of the Viking Age. In the midst of the fight, Olaf, dear Olaf, who had slapped Sigrid and who had married Tiri, leapt from the side of his ship, the Ormrind Lungi, or Long Serpent, and was never heard from again.
Yeah, screw that guy.
He doesn't. He doesn't deserve like a
inappropriate?
badass death. No, he doesn't
No.
deserve a badass death.
And I think it's such a symbol of masculinity. He's leaping from a boat literally named the Giant Penis.
And then he's just gone.
Yeah, the Long Serpent. He leaps from his Long Serpent, and that's it. She drives him from his own cock. Way to go,
Now
Sigrid.
that's a woman.
I knew you would
Really?
like her. When
Big
I
fan.
I
asked
am
you guys to
obsessed.
do this, it was just so you could hear about Sigrid.
I'm delighted. Thank you, Rob.
Yes.
I'm here for you. All right, let's get into some more of this. Olaf Haraldsson rose to power 15 years after the end of Olaf Tryggvason's reign. In Norway, Olaf II, also known as Saint Olaf, for those of you who are fans of the Golden Girls, you'll be familiar with Saint Olaf, the town that Rose is from. No? You guys don't know the Golden Girls?
I mean, I've seen it.
Do you
but
not know any
like well
gay
enough?
men?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know the lore, Rob.
Yeah, I don't know that much more about it. I've seen
Anyway.
it, but
Yeah.
She's always talking about Saint Olaf. Anyway.
oh yeah, that one. Oh wait, which one? I don't even know which one.
It's Saint. I'm talking about him right now. Anyway,
Okay.
he invited the English clergyman Grinkle to Norway. Here we go again. Here comes Bishop Grinkle, like so many Christian clergymen before him. He presided over the canonization of Olaf only a year after his death. So, to get canonized, things have not gone well for you. Olaf was apparently quite brutal, which is partly why he was so successful at uniting Norway. After the northern kings pledged fealty to him, he crushed the kings in the south, brought the aristocracy to heel, took control of the Orkney Islands, and raided Denmark. The Danish king Knut the Great ultimately drove him out of Norway, uniting the kingdoms and casting Olaf into exile, and Olaf fell in 1030 trying to reclaim his kingdom. So he did all this uniting, and then he got beat, and the other guy took all his stuff. Okay. Thanks for uniting this. It's mine now. In another bit of historical good luck, after his death, his illegitimate son, Magnus the Good, took the throne of Denmark and Norway, establishing Olaf's dynasty. So then his son managed to loop back into power. A lot of turnover in Viking territory.
Yeah.
While it's questionable whether Olaf actually Christianized Norway, he did establish a Norwegian Christian legal code. His legal code was so well regarded that when Pope Gregory VII tried to enforce clerical celibacy in Norway, the Norwegian clergy ignored it because it wasn't in the code.
Good for them.
They're like, no, this code says we can have sex. We're keeping this one.
We're keeping the sex. I mean, after all, we just crushed a country. What else are we going to do?
Yeah, honestly.
Among the Scandinavians, the Lutici Federation were some of the most resistant to Christianization. The Lutici worshipped nature in sacred groves and at springs, lakes, and rivers. They worshipped in the open without priests. Adam of Bremen, my guy who gave us all about that temple with them sacrifices, reports that the Scottish John Scotus, Bishop of Mecklenburg, was ritually decapitated during a revolt in 1066 as a sacrifice to Radagast, the Slavic god of hospitality.
Yeah, dang, okay.
Nothing says hospitality like a good beheading.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, guest. Welcome to our home. Could you just stretch out your neck a little?
Hello, new guest. Would you like to see the previous guest on our mantle?
Oui. The Rani of the Rügen, wealthy merchants and pirates, also avoided Christianization for a while, paying tribute to the temple of Svantevit in Arkona. The Rani were pantheists who worshipped gods with several faces in the form of large wooden statues at temples, holy groves, and their home altars. Svantevit was the god of war, fertility, and abundance. At the temple of Svantevit, his horn of abundance was filled with mead annually, and an oracle made predictions based on the behavior of a white horse and the throwing of dice. So that sounds like a fun place.
Yeah, all of these sound so much more fun than Christianity is.
They really do.
Yeah, where's your white horse?
Yeah,
Grinkle?
dice rolling nature, white horse.
Bishop Grinkle.
Where's all that?
Where's that stuff?
Where are your groves?
Yeah. Where are your groves full of white horses?
I think Jesus had a grove. Didn't Jesus have a grove?
I don't...
Yeah, full of fruit you couldn't eat. Rob, It was a trap.
No, it was a trap, Rob, not a grove.
You're killing me. Anyway. And the tribe's treasury was guarded by 300 mounted warriors.
Cool.
So they got their treasury there too. They got the white horse, the dice, the mead, big old treasure, 300 guys. In 1168, the Danish kings conquered Arkona and brought the Rügen princes under their control. Then in 1206, the Danish king Valdemar II received a promise from Pope Honorius III offering him whatever pagan lands he conquered. Inspired by a vision of a cross in the heavens, sort of like Constantine, or the legend of Constantine, I should say, he went on to invade Estonia and establish a castle there. Although the castle quickly became too difficult to defend, the king left behind the missionaries Anders and Sunesson and Nicholas of Schleswig, who not only imparted their Christian wisdom, but also a message of Danish power. So he's using Christianity essentially to conquer Estonia. The group most closely associated with the Christian conquest of the Baltic states was the Teutonic Order. You guys heard of these before, the Teutonic Knights?
No.
No, not even in that D&D stuff or any of that?
It sounds like vaguely like something I've heard about, but you'd have to tell me about them.
They're a bit like the Templars. Okay. They're Templari. The Teutonic Order was originally established in the Holy Land in Acre and was relocated to Transylvania, because that's what you do when you have too many knights in the Holy Land.
You go to Transylvania?
Yeah, you're like, we have one too many knights. What should we do with this guy? Send him to Transylvania. But when they attempted to usurp the King of Hungary's control by putting themselves under the direct authority of the Pope, the king tossed him out. So So much for Transylvania. They were given a new mission in Prussia to convert the Old Prussians or Baltic tribes in Prussia to Christianity. The Old Prussians were by most accounts not especially cool. So, sorry, I know we've been having a lot of fun and a lot of feminism, but the men treated women as servants, and they married up to 3 wives, and they could drown or burn disabled family members, sickly newborns, or excessive... Let me say this. Yeah, Nikki's already having trouble before I say this phrase. Or excessive female infants.
Oh, there it is. Kill the girls, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. All of that's awful. All of that is equally awful.
So here's some terrible pagans. I know we've been trying to be extra kind to the pagans and allowing them to murder people in groves and stuff, but not cool pagans.
There's always a few who just ruin it for everybody.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Just take it too far,
Yeah. We can't blame the Christians for Joel Osteen. I mean, not all the Christians.
We can blame the Christians for almost everything bad that's happened in history.
There's a lot. But
not Hitler. I mean, not directly anyway.
I was going to say not everything, but like
Hitler.
the majority.
There's a good bit. But just as there are bad Christians, there are bad pagans as well.
Pagans, yeah. Going to be some bad apples in the bunch. So these are them. They worship nature, possibly a pantheon of gods, had a high priest who resided in a sacred grove and communicated with the spirits of dead ancestors. A little bit of mediumship going on there. Teutonic Knights, they Christianized the old Prussians beginning in 1231, and 50 years of bloodshed and forced conversions ensued. The Knights went on to control the largest continuous area in the region from the Gulf of Finland to the border of Livonia. In 1200, Bishop Albert of Riga led a crusade to convert the Livonians. So these guys were real stubborn in Livonia. They are hardcore. We did a whole episode on the Livonian werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a guy who believed he was a werewolf who went down into hell to fight the witches and fight Satan. Yeah, It's badass. Anyway, because Livonia, that story I think in part is because so much paganism persisted in Livonia for so long. So here comes Bishop Albert. He's leading a crusade in Livonia, and he created the Livonian Brothers of the Sword through a charter issued by Otto IV. These knights were warrior monks, much like the Templars, and took vows of celibacy, poverty, and obedience. The Grand Master, the first of which was Venno von Rohrbach, served for life. In von Rohrbach's case, life was 5 years.
Oh my god.
Not that he was 5 years old, but 5 years after.
Yeah, I didn't grasp that. I understood that he was not an infant when he started.
He was born and they said, you will be Grand Master. It's not like the Dalai Lama or anything. So they fought the pagans in modern-day Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The order initially focused on protecting priests and missionaries in Livonia, since, unlike the Templars in the Holy Land, the Christians had no previous claim on Livonian land. Whereas the Holy Land had theoretically belonged to the Christians and was taken away from them, the Baltic pagan lands had never been Christian, which meant there was no moral justification to take it unless provoked. Their first battle was in 1205, and it was prompted by a request from a local tribe who had been attacked by Lithuanians. The Sword Brothers had superior cavalry, and so the Livonians generally avoided outright battle with them, preferring raids instead. After they were decimated by the Livonians in 1236, the Sword Brothers that is, and found their forces reduced to a tenth of its numbers, the order was incorporated into the Teutonic Knights. So they beat the crap out of them for 30 years. Them Livonian pagans. Allied with the Teutonic Order, my Sword Brothers, they eventually succeeded in conquering the Livonians, defeating the Curonians in 1267 and the Semigalians in 1290. So it took them almost a century to fully conquer Livonia.
Wow.
That's pretty hardcore, honestly.
Do you think it's because they were werewolves?
I think that helps. I think it does help to
werewolves do help.
Yes. We're running out of... Our swordsmen are down. Bring out the werewolves!
Send in the werewolves.
Like that, when you hear the line, send in the werewolves, your first question has got to be, how come we didn't do that first? What am I doing here with my little itty-bitty sword? You had werewolves?
And then if you're on the other side hearing, send out the werewolves.
Yeah, then you're
like,
that's it. You're out of there.
I need to go. I
That's
need
it
to
for
get
me.
out of here.
It's been fun. So let's talk about these guys. The Curonians, they were a rich tribe of Baltic pirates, also warriors who laid siege to and regularly attacked the Crusaders along with the Semigalians, capturing monasteries and killing monks. The Curians actually fought alongside the Crusaders when a rival tribe, the Samogitians, invaded their territory, Courland, at the Battle of Derb. But the Sword Brothers refused to free captured Curonian warriors from the Samogitian camp, and so the Curonians said, "Screw you, Sword Brothers," and started attacking them from the rear. The locals fled, and the Sword Brothers were surrounded and beaten.
As they should be.
Don't mess with the pagans. The Teutonic Knights next turned their attention to pagan Lithuania. The Knights reported brutal treatment at the hands of their pagan rivals, who they claimed would tie them to their horses, set fire to them, flay them, or drive a stake through their whole body.
So these are all ors not happening consecutively.
Oh, I don't think. No, I mean, I'm not promising, though, Bree, that they wouldn't drive a stake through your body and then drag you around for a while.
Because I really feel like I would fillet before I set them on fire, you know?
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
But flaying and then sticking you on the back of a horse seems like overkill, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I guess you'd have to stake, fillet, horse, then burn.
I don't know if staking and flaying is happening in the same for the... This is disgusting.
I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of myself for even saying this.
All the Lithuanian pagans.
I just was curious as to what you meant. I didn't know, and then I said that.
Let's talk about God for a little bit. Lithuanian worship involved a vast pantheon of gods, including Dievas, or Dievas. So not Devas, which is a Hindu, but Dievas is the supreme sky god. Velnias was the god of the underworld. Zemina was the earth goddess. Medina, goddess of the forest and the hunt. Gabija, goddess of fire. And Bangputis, god of the sea.
I love that name.
Aren't they neat?
Yeah.
They kept water clean and buried their dead across bodies of water, utilized fire in their rituals, and made contact with the gods in sacred groves. So
sounds pretty cool.
Good. Yeah, pretty chill. The water stuff is really good because that's going to keep you alive for longer.
Yeah, that's smart.
The conflict between the Lithuanians and Teutonic Order lasted 200 years.
Oh, okay. Was not expecting that.
Tack on another century. Well, bear in mind, Bree, all the flaying and stake driving that's going on.
Right.
So your knights ride into town, and next thing you know, you got a stake up your butt. You're not going to come back tomorrow.
But I really feel like, based on your description of these people, that they really did not do those things, at least not to that degree.
Unless provoked.
All right.
Yeah. Don't provoke them. They will flay a...
I guess, yeah.
I probably can't say that. They will flay a Christian.
That's almost worse.
I start using that as like a swear.
They will
you Christian.
They will impale a bishop. The conflict between the Lithuanians and Teutonic Order lasted 200 years, like I said. In 1386, Grand Duke Jogaila of Lithuania converted to Christianity and married Queen Jadwiga of Poland, who was also battling with the Teutonic Knights. This effectively began the Christianization of Lithuania, but this did not translate to a loss of interest among the knights in being the bosses of Lithuania. So this marriage was happening in opposition to these knights who've been fighting these people for all this time. It does Christianize them, but it's not the way the knights had intended.
I guess it's still a big old FU to the knights.
Yeah, and they're still
If you're
there.
gonna have to be Christian, you might as well not give them, the ones attacking you, their way.
Back in Prussia, the Lizard Union, or Lizard League...
I'm sorry, the Lizard League?
This is the Lizard League,
They're not called the Lizard League, Rob.
They absolutely are.
Oh,
I mean, if you don't like that, it's the Lizard Union.
No, Lizard League is it for me.
League, yeah. That's
it for me, yeah.
They were founded to wrest control of the region from the Knights. So this was a little political organization that was trying to get the Knights out of Germany. Cool. Lithuania and Poland teamed up for another century of fighting against the Teutonic Order, eventually ousting them from Prussia in 1525, and then Livonia 35 years later. So the Knights lost when all was said and done.
Yeah, they did. Thanks to the Lizard League.
Yeah, wait, so what actually made up the Lizard League? I'm sorry.
They were Prussians in opposition to the Knights, the Teutonic Knights.
Okay.
That
Prussians.
was basically their main thing. I'm sure they had cool, like, lizard-based gear. You know.
I just imagine that, like, they kind of like to, like, they'd set lizards out and, like, race them like turtles, and they're like, guys, I've got a great name for our order. It's the Lizard League.
Also,
like,
you know, who
like,
really pisses me off? Those Teutonic Knights. While we're here racing lizards, should we talk about them for a while?
Guys. We're the
Maybe
Lizard
their
League.
calling card was like lizards. Like they'd leave lizards.
But I feel like if they did that, they would end up leaving dead lizards, so I'd like to not think that.
Yeah. I mean, they have werewolves, so what do they need the lizards for?
Lizards?
Where?
Oh, now I'm
no,
sorry.
our werewolves. They're wearing down our werewolves. Bring out the were-lizards.
Were-lizards?
Wait a
Just
second.
start
We had
biting your
were-lizards.
ankles. They're just going for the ankle.
We had
I pictured,
were-lizards.
like, huge lizard men, like...
Oh, yeah, they're
Oh no, I was
enormous.
picturing like lizard-sized werewolves.
Oh my god.
I'm going to picture giant lizard men, but, like, down on their bellies. So
They're just wiggling their way through.
I'm sort of
like,
splitting
on
the
their
difference
belly.
between Nikki and Bree here.
They're shimmying.
Yes, and they're going to take a big bite out of your calf.
Yeah.
Let's bring it on home. The Christianization of the Baltics was by no means an elegant affair. From Sigrid the Haughty conspiring against Olaf to the decapitation of John Scotus in the name of the god Radagast, there was strong resistance against missionaries in all of their guises. Narratives of kings converting out of religious conviction were largely invented by Christian chroniclers as propaganda for the church, when most of these conversions were a matter of politics. More often than not, the church was part of a Game of Thrones, as Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian monarchs and the Teutonic Knights vied for control of the region. Also werewolves and lizard men, yes. All right, ladies. Last thoughts on the old Baltic Crusades.
Let us know what you think lizard werewolves would be like.
Please. I
Were
need to know your
lizards.
thoughts.
Where
Is there a
lizards?
lizard league out there that is actually
Oh
people who
my
just
gosh.
race lizards? Have I called you out? If I have, I apologize, but please let us
Also,
know.
please let us in.
Yeah, let us in. Let us join the lizard league.
You guys want to be were lizards?
No, we want to
Oh.
race
You want to
the
race
lizards.
the lizards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to become lizards on the full moon.
No.
Well,
You do, Nikki?
I mean,
Depends on the lizard, I guess.
I want to dig into this. Tell me more about this idea you have, Nikki, that this would
I
be
just mean
a good
like I
time.
don't have a lot else going on a full
So
moon.
you're just talking about like for your social life,
just for fun.
just to pass a Saturday night. You can guarantee every 28 days. What are you doing? Tell me about your night as a lizard woman.
Oh, I think it'd be really fun to run through grass at like lizard level,
Oh,
Nikki,
you're down on your belly again.
like it's a forest.
Nikki, I have a delightful idea. We can combine the Lizard League and the Were Lizards, and we can race each other as Were Lizards.
So
We are the lizards.
We are, yes.
Nikki's night begins with a nice crawl through the grass, and then she heads over to the village square where she can race other lizard girls.
Yes.
Bree is not a lizard person, but is rather betting on them.
I know. I host
You're
the
the
Lizard
host,
League. Actually,
yes.
I make safe betting rules, and I make sure everybody's having a good time.
She
Very
brings
nice.
us lizard snacks. We're
Yeah,
lizard
I
snacks.
supply the snacks.
Lizard snacks. Give me... Okay, I can't let you go until you tell me what your favorite lizard snack would be, Nikki.
I don't know. I've eaten a dandelion before, and it was okay.
Okay, so you're going to be a vegetarian lizard. I
Either
appreciate
way,
that.
I'm still a vegetarian.
I'm good with that. I'm fine with that.
I can set that up.
I'll be in the corner singing songs about your exploits.
Yes.
It's just narrating your life. And then the lizard Nikki arrives to
With
eat
like one of
her
those like old
dandelions.
guitar.
Yeah, that'll be me. I'll be on the lute, strumming
Yes.
away. Our sources today include Anit Sellart's Livonia, Rus, and the Baltic Crusades in the 13th century, and also Michael North's The Baltic, a history. Who can bring us on home?
I
forget how it starts.
I hereby
Adjourn?
Yeah, you got it. Go for it. Yep.
I hereby adjourn this meeting of the...
Who are we?
I hear.
Oh, no.
You adjourn and declare closed.
Yeah.
Oh, I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the alchemical actors until such a time that we get together and do it again.
There it is. Nice.
There we go.
Ooh.
Our voices today are some new folks. We have Kara Simpson playing the Prophet. We have Evangeline Olsen and Maddie Wagner and Neil Sigmund doing our Danish and Swedish royalty. Is that right? Danish. Where's a Norwegian in there? I think Olaf was Norwegian. And that brings a close to our Baltic Crusades episode. We're going to pretty much hang out in this time period. We're creeping up on the timeline. We started around 300 with Constantine. We moved to the 800s with Gregory the Great. And now we're in about the 1200s. And now we're going to move forward to the 1500s with the Great Witch Hunt in our next episode, which will be a bit of a tribute to one of my favorite scholars, so something to look forward to. And we'll be talking about them witches for a good time. For a good time call, The Great Witch Hunt. My name is Dr. Robert C. Thompson, joined at the mic by our Naked Truth, Nikki Double H.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. And Bree, literal, metallurgic, prophet.
If anybody asks you to convert, take that slap.
Take that slap. Now, there you go. Stand up for your right to whatever. Be you to pagan.
Stand in a grove.
Stand up. Stand naked in a grove with your lizard teeth out.
Find a white horse.
Eating dandelions. As you prophesy on a white horse.
Yeah.
Here on Occult Confessions. Just pull up my script. I said to while we were waiting for you, Nikki, I was like, "Yeah, Nikki's got a strip. That's what we're waiting for."
I was ready. I was just waiting to be sent a link. I was just
You've been
waiting.
ready all day. You just didn't bother getting dressed today.
No, I mean, like,
She said I started nude.
If you stay nude, you don't have to get nude. That's a saying, right?
What? Say that again.
If you start nude, you don't have to get nude. That's the saying,
Oh yeah,
right?
that's true. I didn't know that. Is that a Canadian thing?
No, not with our weather.
If you start nude, you don't. How warm is it there? It's still cold.
It is. It's still like, it's like +5